Hello everybody, welcome to another one of my videos. This is the boom gates down at Cohunu Park in Byford. Main reason for this particular video is this, my project. And this is something I've been building since 2017, it's now 2020 at the time of the recording. And that's a 3 metre long rail car. That's the galvanised section. The driver's cab is another 250mm length onto that 3 metres. At this particular point, it's April in 2020, and after 3 years I've finally got it to this stage. I'll show you some of the features of this in a moment, so I'm just going to change camera position. Okay, with this new camera position, you see the front-on view with the windows are just basically positioned in place. They will get sealed in once I get all the paint work done. What you may not be able to see in this are the LED lighting that I've installed. If I come up over here, if I want to go into the tail end mode, I've got a rotary switch with just tail lights on. If I put the rotary switch back into its off position and then go to the first notch, got my clearance lights, marker lights, whatever you want to call them. A bit further on, got my low beam lights, and then the high beam lights. All this is done on a rotary switch, so I can at least drive this in either direction with either headlights or tail lights on. Now these LEDs that I'm using, these ones down here are the T10 dash lights for your car dashboard. These you can get from Supercheap or any auto store here in Australia. The LED lighting I'm using at the top on both sides, they are from JK Electronics, they're the 10mm LEDs. So when I'm out on the main line, I'll have the headlights on, come into a station, I can run down to the basically my low beam lights, and then when I'm parked up I can have either my clearance lights or my tail lights. If I've got it parked in the siding and on night time run, at least this way I can have park lights on both ends. I was going to do this as a tail car, but I've decided I'm going to build 2 power cars. So I'll show you a bit more of this project in just a second. I'll change camera position. Okay, now looking at the side of my rail car, I have 2 drop down doors which I'll come around and demonstrate in just a sec. This is one of 2 sides, that's the other drop side. Despite the junk that's in here at the moment, whilst there are passengers and stuff, none of this crap in here. You can see I can drop either side all the way down. I can lock it back in place. Twin locks means that if someone fiddles with or mucks around with one end or the other, the door won't open up. But as a matter of safety, these doors would be shut and locked during service. Only when you get to the station could you open and close these doors. So it's a dual feature. There's people with hips, knees and ankle issues, they can still get in and out. There's more of this project to be done yet, of course. But after 3 years working on this part-time, as money has been allowed to afford me to do this bit by bit, many weeks have gone into saving hard to buy the bit of steel that I need. This galvanised sheet down this side was $70. That sheet's another $70. There's $140 just in these 2 sides alone. But the seat plank is a free gift. All the steel that I've used to create the framework, that's all stuff I've had to buy, including the steel that I've used for the wheels, the axles, the bogies, etc. So let's have another change of camera position. Down here at ground level you can see the front bogie This has to have an electric motor fitted to it. You also have to have the drive sprockets and chains. I've already made a start on trialling the rear bogie. It has to be connected up yet, but this is the high-speed bogie that I've designed back in 2012. Stairs for this rail car I've made myself out of some 25mm by 5mm flat bar. Well, actually, sorry, 20mm by 5mm flat bar. And as you can see, down here at floor level, the bottom of my cab does have plenty of clearance. There's another amazing feature I've put in on this. And we'll look at it from this position here. And you might notice a little panel door. Well, if I ever get to a section of track where either I've got to pull someone along or push someone along, or I've got to be pulled along or pushed along, my simple little wire clips enable flat door to open up. Simple little locking unit, and should I need to be pulled or pushed along the track, some dead battery or whatever, any failure whatsoever, there is a coupling. That coupling is an emergency use only type of thing, but certainly with this little hidden feature. And going on the standards, you need to have a safety chain. Now it's ordinary, I think 6mm, I think it is, machine chain, but this is probably about 400mm long, something like that. But if for any reason the coupling should happen to let go, at least there's a secondary measure in place. And I'll just bring the camera on over to where I am. Hope I don't make you too seasick. But underneath here you can actually see what it's like down here at track level. The track we're using is 7¼ inch gauge track. So see the safety chain area. There will be another item added up under the floor just to ensure this doesn't drop down onto the tracks. It's only a bit of 25mm by 3mm flat bar, second hand scrap, it doesn't matter. I'm trying to do things on the cheap. Sometimes it's just easier to use what scrap is available. That's one of my couplings that I've made up. One day I'll finish the painting of the coupling. But a simple chopper, that's all it is. And that connects onto the next carriage. They'll be riding on the other one of these bolts. The setup underneath here, it's not necessarily easy to see, but if I move this chain a little bit, you might be able to see there is spring loading on the front and back of the chassis, big steel washer, some 20mm tubing. I've made all this up myself. So this little feature is something I'm putting onto both rail cars I'm building. Being spring loaded, it tucks in behind this bit of angled steel. It's away, simple as. Should take no time at all. So if it needs to be pulled or pushed along, or someone needs to be towed along or pushed along, I can do it. Another added feature to my rail car. In here, that little air grill. It's only a bit of security mesh. Camera's finding this difficult to look at. But that security mesh, I intend putting a speaker or horn in behind all that. Another one of the features, I'm going to be rebuilding this so it doesn't lift up high enough for my liking. That'll give me access into the cab. Whoops, it's not easy to see. And temporarily, there's my rotary switch me lighting, and areas where I can put wiring through on both sides. So, bringing the camera down this neck of the woods, coming down to the back bogey area. You can sort of see here I've got one motor temporarily fitted. The lighting down here is not good. That is, if I open the roll door, it'll have all the glare come in as well. But there's a power lead hanging down underneath here, which will get tidied up. And you might just be able to see the drive sprocket. Now that's the standard sprocket fitted to the electric motor with the offset gearbox. I'd rather have got myself an inline gearbox, but by similar standards, that's what was available to me. That one motor will drive both axles when all's said and done. If I bring the camera down to here, that's the sprocket to go on the axle. It did come with that size hole. I've had to bore it out to there, but my boring bar on the lathe is not big enough to do the full depth. That's a 14-tooth sprocket. The sprocket that's supplied on the motor, as you just saw underneath, it's a 9-tooth and does come with a key position. So that sprocket has been replaced by an 18-tooth. And to give you an idea, there's the 18-tooth sprocket. This is the other drive motor, one going to go in the front bogie. You might be able to see, if I can get this positioned correctly, see the amount of offset. The height from the top to the bottom, so from there to there, is more than I really would like. So because of this offset that I've got here, this I've only got about 2 finger spaces till it hits the floor of the wagon. So I've got minimum clearance at the top. So this will sit very low to the track once this is positioned. So I have to find another way of doing this. But this section, as you see it, is experiment number 1, with this being the top and that being the bottom. If I rotate it over a bit, I can reduce the height but increase the width. So that's my next stage, trying to find the best position to mount it. The other one's being mounted off that screw hole. I'm going to have to go diagonally across it. But that's another step of the project. So with these in mind, there'll be an 18-tooth driving a 14-tooth, and that is calculated to make this run at around between 11 and 14 kilometres an hour. So for those that deal in miles per hour, you may have to do the conversion. On the back of my rail car, and there's the coupling already there, so they can be towed from either end. And despite all the junk I've got on my seat at the moment, that's how it's looking at the moment. I will be clearing all this junk out very soon. So I've got still to be made for the under the floor department. And that, I'll give you a bit of an idea. Come back around to here. There's a panel that'll go in here. Cardboard template, it's easy enough just to muck around with. But that'll effectively become the lower skirt. And there's another half of this which has come off at the moment. This piece is designed. Just bear with me a moment. To sit up under here. Continuous pain in the bum at the moment, but definitely with the lower skirting in place, it'll hopefully finish off the underneath. There's a 3-part lower skirt, front, middle and end, but all that is meant to be one piece. Unfortunately, because of the situation, it got torn at the lower skirt and seen in one piece. It's from the step through down to the tank, or the underfloor compartment, and at the other end there's a reverse panel, which is the same thing but in reverse. That panel is currently there. So if you imagine a big panel in between these two, that's the front panel off this side, and that's the rear panel for this side, which basically that part goes onto. So your rear panel goes through to your centre panel, goes to your front panel. So I've got 6 of these to make up. Well, out of these I've got 4 of these to make up, 4 of those to make up. That'll cover both rail cars. And then the panel that sits in there is basically what that panel's about. So hopefully very soon, well hopefully by the end of 2020, I'm hoping this rail car will be complete enough to bring it into service, depending on what happens in my life. While we're down here at Cohunu Park in Byford, these gates are fully operational. There is a bell at the top. I won't demonstrate it at the moment. I was going to, but I'd rather not just yet. A guy called Jeff Cooper built these signals. He's one half of pace controls, of the model railway speed controls for train sets. But this has got to go out on the main line eventually. And as we take a bit of a wander around the steam museum workshops, got 3 portable engines. Up front here we have a very early diesel engine. That's the piston and connecting rod out of it. One day this might be put back together and restored, who knows. While we're down here in the workshops, I'll take you through here. The first one's a Britannia engine. This has been lovingly restored by Jeff Cooper. Sadly, the poor guy died years ago. On the inside of the door there's the baffle that you can see. Inside you might be able to see the fire tubes, the front tube plate. For those of you who don't know much about steam power, all the fire that's built up at the firebox end comes through to this end, which is a smoke box. This is all the smoke accumulates, and the rotation of the flywheel pumps out the exhaust, which creates a vacuum in here. If we look up in the chimney area, you may not be able to see it. And it's a bit difficult. Could put the camera lighting on if I could find the control for it. But somewhere up inside here is the exhaust pipe. You might just be able to make sight of it here. My hand's wrapped around the back of the exhaust pipe. But that pipe goes up to there. Of course, chimney, That's folded back to travel position so it can be made mobile. In use, they'd normally be locked in straight up and down position. You consider these engines were built back in the early 1900s. To have it still survive after all these years. It's one of those things where it's amazing that anything like this has survived. Jeff Cooper did a beautiful restoration job on this. Man of many talents. And when I went in Cohunu Park, used to be at the old location. That's how I remember seeing it for many years. But all the restoration work that was done, I believe this will run on compressed air. There are bits and pieces that still need to be done to make it operational. There's a part to go onto the end of this pipe. I can't remember what it was. 2 sight gauges are missing. That's positioned for 1 glass sight gauge. Shows the water level. That's where that one goes. The throttle is operational. So it's at the half open position. Fully open, fully shut. So you can see that links all the way up to the actual valve, which has a stirrup sitting on top of the exhaust. Also missing from up here is where the pressure gauge sits. And if you look at this, it's a Marshall, or Marshall and Sons in Gainsborough in the UK. Big cast doors, you can adjust the air draft through these 2 vents. Cast iron doors. And this is the opposite end where we were just looking at a little while ago. There is a fire grate that's also missing out of here. And the ash pan door, where all the ash comes through to. We rake all the fire out. Another big cast iron door. Over here we have 2 other engines. These were last in steam in 2007. I've got video on VHS compact of this one and its other engine running back in 2000 when we had a steam festival at the old Cohunu Park site. Now one of these 2, here we go, over to here first. Rushton, Lincoln, England. So this one's a Rushton engine. This big pipe down the side is the steam pipe. So I'll walk you up between the units. Steam comes in through the saddle underneath, goes through the valve which is on the opposite side of here. That's the main drive cylinder, drain cock valves, and then through this pipe here, that's exhaust to the front. And then that will go through and come up the chimney. It'd be nice to get enough money donated to the park to get these 2 restored. I'm not too sure exactly now the cost of it, but I'm told that it'll be probably up around the $80,000 to $100,000 mark to get restored. I don't know if that was for each or both, but this one, here's another Marshall engine. And of course these are classed as portable engines, that's why they've got the towing frames on the front. Originally used out on farms and stuff. These big portable engines have been replaced many years ago by the internal combustion engine. And this one here, there's a governor on top, which helps regulate the speed of it by them being pulses. Steam comes up through the saddle, through the valve, out through the cylinder, back through the valve, and there's the exhaust pipe running along to the front, into the back. Then that vents up into the chimney. I'll have a look at these in a sec. Some of the ornate fancy work. That's a water pump for those who don't know. Steel wheels or steel spokes. Now these two monster machines are ammonia compressors. I'll come around here and show you some of the information. So this will give you an idea what they are. Give you roughly how old they are. A few other information. These have been driven from their portable engines we've just looked at, and that'll come off the drive chain to the drum via belt drive. Monsters, these things. So they're in two halves, but for those who don't come down to Cohunu Park, or can't come down, or have never been in the museum, this is what's up here. This will be driven off that car wheel, drive chain, up through the safety guard to that sprocket, which is driven off the Rushton. And so there's the drive sprocket on there with the key in it. That'll be driving this drum here. Just bear with me and change positions. That's a view from the other end of it. Massive big crank, a few inches thick there. And there's the other one facing the other way. Down here at the Cohunu Park Museum workshops, we do run on donation basis, so any money donated goes into restoration of these machines. It helps keep the park functioning. We don't get any government grants, no lotteries grants, no nothing. Only what comes through the main entrance. There's a couple of carriages here of significance. Early, well, mid-60s, mid-70s, built by Keith Watson, Watco Loco Works. And this was part of his private collection once. I've done some restoration work. The guy that now owns these bought these off Keith. This particular one is a dual side tipper. There's a little tip either direction. So with that, this here, when Jeff Cooper started restoration on it, I took those photos for him. That's how it used to look. Between Jeff Cooper and Roger Jowett, who are the two guys doing a lot of the restoration here, that's how they came up. And we've had it running on compressed air. One day I might find the time to get some video done. but that's the unit. Steam powered winch. Twin cylinder, left side, right side. It's hard to believe it's the same machine. And yeah, everything just runs on compressed air nowadays. Roger Jarrett restored all this. It's the shot when it was just newly completed. There's the inlet valve. These guys were very talented, and Roger still is very talented. Here comes engineering and all that. That runs sweet. There's another weir pump. In boats I've got bilge pumps that do the same sort of job as this. Bilge pumps in boats tend to pump water out of the belly of the boat, or pump out of tanks. That's the steam engine side of it, and the pump side of it. Ooh. That link in there operates the valves, of course. The valve is in this section, and the engine part's in that cylinder. Engine being air power or steam power. There's a twin cylinder horizontal version of it. Come back around, you see the two cylinder covers. Steam inlet. Even though we clean this, the amount of crap that comes in through the roof. Yeah. But, so the two acting sides of the steam engine. Twin-sided pump. Again, there's information here. I'll tell you a bit about it. A guided tour. It's usually done by one of us volunteers or by myself, depending who's here. To give you an idea, it's a Worthington high capacity pump. So that's also fully restored. Get it cleaned up again and get it working. And out the Kalgoorlie pipeline, Perth to Kalgoorlie, that's one of the Westinghouse air pumps. This one's apparently used for keeping pressure between pumping stations. It's also used on steam engines too. And these supply air to or steam I should say, to the steam brakes and steam engines. You get the twin version, which also pumps water into the boiler. So you got water pump and steam brake pump. Up to the back of here, another project that may eventually get restored. It's a twin cylinder unit again. You consider this is how some of the other engines I'm about to show you looked when I first came to the Cohunu Park. It's a bit of a sad and sorry state. Public Works Department, Fremantle. So they spent a lot of its time on basically water on the back of a barge or a boat. And the one in the background you can just see is where we're about to go, so I'll show you that in just a sec. Start with this shot here. Steam dredger mooring winch. That was down at a place called Yarloop, long before the big fire several years ago that burnt the whole town of Yarloop to the ground. Luckily that engine, which is there in this photo, was taken to the old Cohunu Park site in Gosnells years ago. Come down to here because there's the original bed frame. And it's a brand new bed frame built on the exact dimensions. With the restoration work that was done. I'll just go like this for you. Be as quick as I can perhaps. but I got to see the joy of it running in steam at the old park. There it is. It's hooked up to those portable engines that we saw previously. Well, there it is. The cable drums don't have cable on it anymore, of course, but there are 3 drums. It's the middle one, which is basically a twin, and a single drum on the end. Now, I come around over here. This is the operational end of it. 1 cylinder, other cylinder, dog clutches, throttle and all the rest. Beautifully restored, just needs a bit of TLC to keep it clean. Over here, another twin cylinder job, been restored, back to full working order. That rusty grey one that we looked at a little while ago over the back, that's what this used to look like. Seized up, rusty, but internally and mechanically it's still serviceable. So between Roger and Jeff, they've done all the restoration work. The information we've got here. Ledgerwood piling winch. When it came in, picture got stripped down. You see how bad a condition it was in. Look up into here. And Roger and Jeff documented all their restoration work. And that's good because that way people like yourselves can then see and maybe appreciate some of the work that's gone into restoring something like this. Another item that we got from the Banana Oil Refinery. That's the condition it was in when it came here. After Roger and Jeff spent ages restoring it. That's it there. And that's the unit. That's the oil pump on this end. That's the steam engine at that end. Come on around this way so you can see the opposite side of things. So that's the oil pump. It's a coupling. A lot of drain valves. The gauge on there tells you the RPMs, I think, from memory. Plenty and Sons, and the people who produced this. I don't know enough about the back end of this, but I can only tell you from what I've seen. I know that all this beautiful woodwork has been beautifully redone by Roger. The gauges got refurbished. All the valves been pulled apart, seen to. Was nicely polished once. There's a throttle. The red air hose is our steam inlet or air inlet. There's all the drainage pipes come down to here into the tray. This particular unit is used for transferring oil from tank to tank down at Cohunu, Ashworth Parker, engineers, and yeah, through Plenty and Sons, near England. So There's a steam-powered oil pump. And height-wise, it's taller than me. That's easy, what, 6'2", maybe 6.5 feet tall to the top. Sitting at least 2 metres. But yeah, I'm going to just change camera shots now. Okay, we're in the loco depot side of things. This is DL36Y, based on a full-size DL class used in South Australia. This is in the Australian National Colour Scheme, before I went into any other colour scheme like private ownership, whether it's CFCLA or Jesse Wyoming or whatever. But this one has a 4-cylinder Ford Escort motor right in the middle. It drives the rear 6 wheels only. The front 6 wheels are non-powered. You can see by the different tone in green that I've actually started repainting it. I'll have to get back to it when I can. But this is built by Sid Shepherd and has been owned by the park for at least the last 4 years from memory. It's a beautiful loco to drive. I love driving it. I forget now how many litres of fuel it takes. I think it's about 25 or 30 odd litres worth of fuel on the back end. But certainly we can get a good couple of days running out of it before the tank is dry. But it does have an operating headlight, cab light, whichever you want to call it. And I don't know the full history on the locomotive, but I'm glad it's here. Okay, from different camera position, I've only partially uncovered this loco. This is privately owned, that's why I choose not to fully uncover it. It's not allowable for me to do that. But Hunslet, also known as Joan, is owned by 2 people, and the 2 guys that own it are just friends. They live in 2 separate houses, of course, but they've done a joint effort to get this loco built. Yeah, even though it's a Bobo, for those who understand the configuration of the wheels, it's 8-wheel drive. With this, it has a Morris Minor engine. It drives a hydraulic pump, and the hydraulic pump drives a hydraulic motor in each bogie. So for its power to weight ratio, it'll take so much load on the back of it before its wheels start slipping. It is a beast. It's like having a prime mover to pull a car trailer. It's ridiculous power. But to sit inside it is just a joy, a dream to sit in. But for the guys who own it, yeah, they only dictate as to who can drive and who can't. But that there, I forget now how much weight is in that loco alone, but that is one of the few privately owned engines here at the park. Now, I'll just swing around here for a minute where the DL is parked. Normally here, where the DL's parked, there's usually another locomotive, which is currently over our service pit at the moment, undergoing a major overhaul, which is typical. When these things are run every weekend, public holiday Mondays and school holidays, any locomotive could be out on the line depending who's driving. The DL is my preferred loco. It's such a wonderful loco to drive. But I'll show you another private engine in a sec. Okay, this is one of the other privately owned engines. It's called Laverton. It was built, I'll remember the guy's name in a moment. Yeah, it was built, ran for the Lake National Altia Railway. And with that, it was then sold once the guy died. And then it came here to the old Cohunu Park. And the park moved down here to Byford. This came down as one of the first engines to be steamed. It's a different view from the back. For those who you may not know, it does run on real coal. There's the coal outlet. Laverton. I've got a video of it somewhere, either up on YouTube already, which I think I do. This is off the same camera I'm using now, but it was one of the first steam engines to run around the new Cohunu Park track circuit, and it's still being lovingly looked after and kept in operation if possible. It's a 260 Baldwin style locomotive. For those into model engineering, those who would understand, it's called a Sweet Creek. Keith Watson drawings. This change of camera position. In the background, the black one with the red lining, it's Dixie, built by Stan Andrews. Stan Andrews has also passed into history. A guy called Adrian owns the locomotive, and that is our other privately owned steam engine. So Laverton is privately owned, Joan is privately owned, Dixie is privately owned. The Cohunu Park Rail loco, which is the Cohunu Queen, built by Ian Ramsey. Tender built by, I remember his name at the moment, having a bit of a blank. But yeah, Tender was built in Bunbury for that locomotive. The change in camera position and a little bit of racking my brain is Jeff Clifton, Clifton Engineering in Bunbury that built this tender. Yeah. During our summer months here, we can't run steam because of fire bans, but at the moment they have to be stored dry and basically serviced and maintained through our summer months. The end of April, May area through to around October is when the steam locos come out, so at least you can get a chance to see these things in steam. With a slightly different camera position, you see that she's a 262, and then one will be clear at the stage. There's the injector. Steam comes down this pipe here into the injector itself. Water comes in from the tender through the one-way valve, through and up. The high pressure steam gets increased to even higher pressure, comes out through this pipe, through, and then up underneath here is the clack valve, so water can come up and goes in, but no water pressure can come out. It's an interesting system, the way it was designed for the full-size railway. It's the way this one runs as well. The way to know which way steam engine is going to travel, if it has wall shafts valve gear like this one, is by the radius rod. At the moment it's in neutral gear. If I put into forward gear, you'll see the rod drop to the lowest position. If it's going to go into reverse, it goes up to the upper position. Let's take a look at this from a different position. Here we have a slightly different camera position. See, it's parked in reverse. If we were to go through to neutral, that's neutral position, and full forward position. Notching up in full-size terms is bringing it closer towards neutral. So if we said that first gear, second gear, third gear type of position, neutral, and that is also like first gear reverse, second reverse, third gear reverse, neutral. That's the easiest way to understand it. As you'd see, it alters the valve position. Because this is a piston valve engine, the positioning of the radius rod, which we just lifted up and down, Adjust the position to enter steam through the front or back end of the cylinder. So for those of you who don't understand steam, that is the easiest way I can put it. From a slightly different perspective, or camera position, Dixie, privately owned engine by Adrian, built by Stan Andrews. Creaky tripod. That is a 260 version, or Mogul, also of Baldwin design. And fully functioning. When Stan built this, it was more like a museum piece. So a few of the fine details had to be removed to make it drivable. But otherwise, it is an immaculate engine, and there is some video I've got here on YouTube. So if you look up Dixie Run, you should be able to find it, along with a lot of other listings for, say maybe the Dixie Chicks and all the rest. But if you type in on the YouTube search bar, Cohunu Park Dixie Run, you should be able to find it. Have a look in the cabs of these. In the meantime, we're just going to have a quick sticky beak. A close of all this. So Dixie's in neutral gear. There's the injectors, mash pan area. Dixie's got different side gauges what the Queen's got. A lot of hours and time have gone into building this magical piece of engineering. As we look at the other side of the Queen, thing of interest, what I'm about to show you is here. Because not many people get to see this sort of thing. That's the fire grate in the dump position, where you dump the fire. There's the sight gauges, throttle control, injectors, and blower. The blower is actually used for creating a vacuum in the firebox. Just to give you some idea, you've got two lots of air that comes through, primary air and secondary air. Not a dairy air, but certainly primary air for memory comes across the top of the fire. Secondary air comes up through the fire grate, which you can see in the 45-degree angle position, and that comes through the fire itself, increasing the heat. So that, with the blower running, it creates a vacuum at this end of the locomotive boiler, or in the firebox it is, and that increases the heat, and it's sucked out through a vacuum to the front, where it's ejected out into the atmosphere. This happens on full-size steam engines as well as on these scale models. There's the forward reverse lever, drain cock valve as well. I'll look at this in a moment. And that's the operating seat area. The safety valve sitting on there temporarily for the Queen. I'll go have a look at this orange box. This is another park-owned engine, just like the Cohunu is also park-owned. This is owned by the park. This is also owned by the park. This is also built by Jeff Clifton of Clifton Engineering. Working marker lights, front and rear, the headlights. The cow catch has been taken off temporarily because we've just done some bogie repairs. This engine is fitted out with a 3-cylinder Suzuki Mighty Boy engine. Runs an air compressor, and of course the alternator is there to get the battery charged for the lighting and everything else. There's currently air pipes and fittings missing at the moment, doing small motor repair work. And for those who understand the wheel arrangement codes, it's a COCO, which is 3 driven axles at each end. Up in underneath here is a gearbox. There's a drive shaft end that drives both axles. This axle chain drives to the other axle. So that's how that sort of works. I'll have to give you a bit of an idea in a moment. If I just come on up. A little bit. That's a 35 litre fuel tank, you can see. You've also got the throttle and choke cables, wires and air hoses. Underneath this running board you see the left hand side air tank. That is an actual working air tank. It holds all the air pressure for the brakes and the air horn. There's an identical one of these on the other side of the locomotive. That's a dummy fuel tank, but in real life that would have been where the fuel was put. There's the rear end, and we've given it a Lamborghini style swing door. Makes it easy for the drivers to get in and out. And it is a replica, or was a replica, of a locomotive that did exist. West Australian D class, locomotive 1561 was class leader. Several years ago this loco was cut off for scrap. Despite the full-size one being cut off for scrap, which is sad because I'd like to have been able to have that preserved. But this is the 7¼ inch scale model. Jeff Clifton only built 2 of these. This is the first one. He's got D1562 down at Forest Park in Bunbury. This then still has its pilot beam on. In real life, this is where the dynamic braking was, those elephant ears on the side. The fan came in, I think from memory it sucked air in and up, it would have been sucked in and up, to keep all the resistor grids nice and cool when you go into dynamic braking. For those who don't understand dynamic braking, that's when the engine becomes basically your brake. And so in this case, using traction motors down on the wheels, or down on each axle, I should say. Those drive motors become generators, which put power back through the resistor grids, hence the dynamic cooling vents, and that puts power back into the locomotive. So it's basically a bit like a truck using a jake brake. That's the easiest way I can describe it. I've driven this loco many times over the years. Air operated brakes. We have speedo gauge, pressure gauge, air tank gauges, light switches, and you can see the drive shaft coming through from the motor. This is where I have to be able to give you an idea how Jeff Clifton has designed the bogies. You might be able to see down here the rear gearbox. Drive shaft in, chain drive to there, chain drive to the centre axle. From there, it drives the outer axle. The way this is set up is almost like the full size, in that this bar across has a pivot. It triangulates the shockeys, so it forms a triangle. 3 points of contact, giving you even pressure. and that allows this locomotive to not only turn on tight corners, but also allows it to negotiate through point work while maintaining even downward pressure. I'll change camera positions now. Might not be visible quite yet, but you see the brake cylinders, which are actually functioning brake cylinders. They actually apply brakes to the wheels. But if we look carefully, it is one of the shock absorbers, you might call it. It's putting downward pressure between these two. The bogie pivot puts pressure between the other two axles. So you've got two lots of downward force. A bit clearer detail here at the front. That's the front suspension. That's what you couldn't quite see in the last shot. Now on the radial blocks, so it allows it to slide while pushing down. And there's some of the brake line system. There's a sprocket for the front drive. So the brakes are set up on their hangers. If we lose the air power, we'll lose brake power unless we've got the handbrake operational. See the suspension between the axle box and the bogie frame. This is a feature throughout the locomotive. Slightly different camera position to the drive shaft. The handbrake is actually mounted up underneath that panel. So if the handbrake's on, it applies braking to the front and rear drive shaft, which applies to the gearbox, which applies to all the chain drives. So that's an inside look at the locomotive under repairs and restoration. Well, we've got the coronavirus thing going around, world pandemic. This is the best time while the park has been temporarily closed to do all the major repair work that needs to be done. So then when we can reopen the railway in the park, it's only then that we can say yes, everything's now fully okay, ready and safe to use. This is some of the stuff that doesn't get seen. When you come to a tourism park, you don't get to see the behind the scenes. This is one of the carriage bogies. It's been overhauled and repaired as well. You might not realise that there is actual suspension involved. And again, Jeff Clifton designed and built these bogies. We have 10 carriages which use these, so there's basically 10 pairs or 20 bogies of this design in use under the passenger carriages. And another locomotive which is the oldest one in the Cohunu Park fleet. We nicknamed this one Bubby because it's the smallest engine. It's a Terrier, the very first. So here are Terrier locomotives, apart from the steam engine version. This is the diesel version. That's the engine out of it. We're told it's knackered, but we do know it did run. There's its gearbox. This is our main maintenance locomotive, work locomotive, everything else locomotive, rescue. But at the moment, due to a few minor problems, after 40 odd years, finally giving it a new motor. That's just some of the engineering that goes into building something of this scale. Back in the museum workshop sort of things rather than the loco depot, this is a scale replica of a West Australian R-class locomotive. It's a 440. Now, in the diagrams of the West Australian steam engines, there's actually also made as a 442. This scale replica is of locomotive R174. Currently the full-size locomotive, which this is representing, is down at the Bassendean Railway Museum, which is owned by the Australian Rail Historical Society, ARHS. And this is actually to scale. Therefore it is much smaller in size to what we've just been looking at. Everything is actually overscaled. This is built to actual scale. This is a live steam. It has been restored back to operational conditions, but has never been steamed in don't know how long. This different view shows the cab as it's all set up in arrangement. All the reversing wheels here, throttles there, whistle, pressure gauge, firebox door, sight gauge, and all the other bits and pieces. Now basically the way it is, it'll run on steam power, just like the full size does. I don't remember the guy's name who built this one. The significance of this particular locomotive is that the full size locomotive went from Perth to Kalgoorlie, some 800 kilometres, in record time to save some trapped miners. There's massive flooding up at Kalgoorlie through heavy rains. Mine workers would know that water goes to the lowest possible point. So this full-size locomotive, that is the full-size version of this locomotive, and a couple other locomotives, went in runs up to Kalgoorlie to save and eventually rescue one trapped miner. All the rest managed to get themselves to a higher level, except for one. A rescue team was sent from Perth, and imagine these things, if we use the imperial miles an hour, it probably would have been easy, probably 50, 60 mile an hour, maybe more. There is a full story of it at the Bassendean Railway Museum. It has been documented, so I can only go on what I can remember of it. Okay, one final look at this railcar project. Just remember I'm building two of these identical. Hopefully the next one will be built a lot better than this one. I've made so many mistakes getting this right. But the thing is, these will be a beautiful pair hopefully when they're finished. Windows are going to be painted on, doors will be painted in. Just makes life a little easy for me. But there's a lot more work to be done on this at the moment. So I hope this has been a very interesting video for you guys out there to watch. Hopefully it's given you a bit of understanding. I'm not really taking too much in front of the camera myself, but I'm ugly enough so you don't need to see me. But by similar standards, I look forward to getting these finished. Bogies, I started on the bogies 2012, 2014 area. Started the rail car in 2017, now 2020. 3 years getting to this stage. Like I have another one to go. It's already been started. But we take on these challenges to keep our minds occupied, and also to have some fun in the process of living. The Perspex windows I'm using, got the clear plastic covers on to protect the Perspex. When I'm ready I'll pull that clear plastic off and reveal the clear Perspex in underneath. Many thanks for watching my video. I hope you've enjoyed it all, hope it's been entertaining, hope you've learnt something, and you take care and stay safe, and hopefully this coronavirus will that'll be a thing of the past very soon, all going well. Take care.